Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. If you don't know me yet, igama lami Zinhle, and I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I qualified in 2020 and I wrote my first board exam in 2019. In today's video, I'll be sharing tips on how to better prepare for your ITC, and I hope that these tips are going to help you to pass your ITC exam. I really want to see everybody win, so hopefully all that I'm sharing today, you can take it and apply it in your exam preparation. Firstly, I just want to say that to everybody that has passed their CTA and is just preparing for ITC next year or thinking about writing ITC next year, firstly, congratulations on passing your CTA. It is the best feeling I know, and well done. And to everybody else that is most probably preparing for their exams this year, for their CTA exams, good luck guys. I hope it really goes well and that you do come back to this video to watch it again to prepare for your ITC exam. And to the aspiring students, keep pushing. You're gonna get here soon, and do come back to this video as well to watch the tips once you pass your CTA. So ITC is the first board exam that you write. It is the initial test of competency and basically tests your technical competencies around 4 areas, being auditing, tax, financial management, and financial accounting. This exam is written just after you pass your CTA, and you have 3 years to write this exam. So you've got 6 chances because ITC is written twice a year. So after 3 years, if you do not pass, then you would have to go back to your CTA year. This exam is written over 2 consecutive days in 4 sessions. So you write 4 papers with an hour lunch break. So it is very important to prepare for this exam. Only one requirement for you to write ITC, which is basically passing your CTA exam. There is no percentage as long as you pass. But there are board courses out there that help to prepare for the exam. They are not a SAICA requirement. They are just institutions offering a board course. They've been observing how SAICA has been testing over the years. They've got experience in that field. So then they sell those board courses. So I would advise that you sign up with those board courses, though it's not a requirement. Most firms do pay for these fees. So they will pay for your SAICA fees and they will pay for the board course fees. So if your firm is sponsoring for it, go for it, take it. And if your firm doesn't offer for it and you have money to pay for it, please do take it. If your firm is not offering to pay for the board course and you also don't have money to pay for the board course, that is okay, because you can still prepare for the SAICA exam and pass without going through the board course. Let's get to the tips. At this point in your studies, I do believe that you know a lot more than you think you know. You are very well equipped, but it can sometimes feel like you don't know much, So the first thing that I would do before I can even start studying is reflecting on my CTA year and identifying my struggles, all the things that I feel like if they came out in the exam, they would make me sweat or I would die. So identifying all those things. So if you are doing a board course, then I would take all my struggles and compare them to the file that the board course sent me to see if those topics are covered in the file. And if your struggles are in the board course file, great, because now you already have a structure provided to you of how to revise. If they're not, I would say add them on the to-do list. I wouldn't just leave them aside because they are not in the file. Because remember, at the end of the day, the board course is just a guide for you to prepare for the exam. It is not like a SAICA requirement and it has all the SAICA topics and stuff. They are basically just giving you a structure and telling you what they have observed over the years in terms of how SAICA tests. But it is not what SAICA will be testing on the day. So if there's anything that you feel you are uncomfortable with, I would say add it on the list of things that you need to revise. So if you are not doing a board course for whatever reasons, firstly, I just want to say that I did a board course in my CTA, in my ITC year. So I don't really have experience in this field, but I'm just sharing things that I would do if I was in that position. So firstly, after doing the reflection of CTA year, I would also look into my CTA year topics that were like hot topics, new standards, and I would add that in my list. Then the next thing is I would basically create my own file by going to the SAICA website and downloading past papers and cap it to 10 at first. You can cap it to a number that you feel you can take. The most important thing here is that you don't want to overwhelm yourself. And then you would also take your notes, like the important notes that you made for the exams, for your CTA exam. Take those notes and include in your file because you're going to use them as revision, right? So now at this point, you've identified hot topics for during your CTA year, new standards, your struggles. You've downloaded ITC papers from the SAICA website. Now you sort of have a starting point of how you're going to be planning to revise. Now that you have your file, if you're not doing a podcast, or you've done your comparisons with your podcast file, it's time to come up with a timetable and that suits you. Remember, the board course file is a one size fits all, and reality is it doesn't fit everyone's schedule. Therefore, you need to structure things according to how you study better. So you need to come up with a plan, a timetable of how you're going to be studying over the next couple of weeks. And in doing this, you need to ensure that in your timetable, you do at least 2 modules a day, not 1, 2, because you need to be in that position of being able to tackle more than one thing. The reason I say you need to do at least 2 modules a day is because of how the exam is structured. It is different from how CTA is structured, because in CTA, when you go for an exam, you know exactly what you're writing, but for ITC, you don't know. So you need to be in a position where you're going to be able to answer any question that comes up, and you're going to be able to wear the tax hat and then wear the financial accounting hat in one paper. So after that, now it's time to start revise. I feel like revision differs per person in terms of how we do it. For me, I like to first do a question, right, just to gauge like where I stand with certain topics, and then from that question I like to go back and revise. At this stage, you know a lot more than you think you do. Remember, you just did CTA, and ITC is basically CTA, but in 2 days, really. What I would do is definitely dive into a question first, go through questions, and then from there onwards, start revising those topics. I would put the topics that I struggle with at the top of my list, and then I'll go through the other topics as I do the questions. So in doing that way, I am writing those papers under exam condition. At this point, you shouldn't be writing exam papers lazily. You really have to be doing things under exam condition. And you do have this skill already, because when you were preparing for your CTA, that's what you should have been doing, right? And I believe you did that. But if you did not, so this is the time where you start practicing to write papers under exam condition and thoroughly marking yourself. Do consult with the lectures if you are doing the board course. Do consult with friends if maybe you don't have the podcast, and just help one another. Practicing under exam condition. Closer to time, you need to practice in exactly as how ITC is written, meaning you're going to write 2 papers in 1 day and do the same thing the next day. Basically mimic those 2 days, because you want to practice and be ready to do that, because it can be tiring, guys. I don't know if things have changed or not, if like exams are now being typed or you still have to write by your hand. But if you still have to write with your hand, then you really need to practice, because guys, the auditing, when you're writing auditing, you write to a point where you're like, you know what, my hand is just, I'm tired of writing. So it's important to actually exercise this muscle. Day before the exam, it is a resting day. So when you were doing your plan, you should have planned that day before the exam is resting. All you're going to be doing that day is making sure that you've packed your books, you've packed your stationery, you've packed your favorite snack, and you've packed your lunch, you've got water. If the exam is still written by hand, you've got enough pens in your stationery. So very, very important you do that. And when it comes to food, please pack things that you generally eat. Don't go for new stuff now for the exam, because you really don't want to upset your stomach. That's very important for me because I have a very sensitive stomach, guys, like very, very, very sensitive. So I cannot just eat anything. It's very important. So stick to those things. Drink enough water. So on the day of the exam, you're gonna be there on time. You're gonna get the best parking spot that is near the door. You're gonna register on time. If you are like me, you're gonna avoid people that talk about the exam, or you're just gonna avoid people altogether. Now I avoid people in general. I don't want to talk to anyone on the day of the exam. And that's because the whole time now I'm hyping myself up, like I've got this, I'm about to smash it, you know, I'm great. I affirm myself, I hype myself. And if somebody asks me like how I'm feeling, I don't like that, because somehow it makes me feel like, oh, does this person think that I'm not ready? It's a me thing, right? So I just decided I don't want to talk to people before I write their paper and after. You know, I don't want to discuss the exam. I really do not want to discuss the exam. Now I get nightmares. I get nightmares after writing the exam. So talking about it makes it worse. So I just like to keep it to myself and affirm myself, hype myself, and just go in and do my thing. So you're gonna go in and you're gonna write your exam. You're gonna take your, even during lunch, I avoid people. I would go sit in my car and just eat my lunch and then go back to write the paper. So for day 2, you're gonna go home, sleep, and get 8 hours of sleep again, and go and smash the paper once again. Admin things to do. If you are already doing your articles at this point, make sure that you've got enough leave. I know firms can be generous when it comes to this. I got a whole month off for my ITC, and so do apply on time. And number 2, try not to use the work laptop for preparations. But if you don't have a personal laptop and they allow you at the workplace to use the laptop for preparations, just mute notifications for emails and chat, you know, your Google Chat or your Teams, and really focus on ITC to avoid talking to work people about work. You know, don't butt in, don't do it, because at the end of the day, if you don't pass, honestly, nobody cares. You will see it. The firm focuses on people that passes, and 2, the firm won't pay for you again. So focus on passing ITC. You're not going to be neglecting your work, because your workplace knows exactly that you are not available that time. So you are not available to assist in any way. And a good manager and a good partner would know that. They would know not to bother you because they've done this before. So don't be like a goody person and be like, hi, I just want to help, I'm a team member. No, because if you don't pass, nobody cares, sissy. Like, nobody cares. I don't know if they still do this where they release a list of people. If your name doesn't show up in that list, sana, like the heart, don't. So don't do it. Just focus on your studies. So I really hope that it does go well. That's all that I wanted to share today. So all the best for your exams. And I really hope that you get to qualify as a CA. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe. Stay blessed.